Okay. Yeah. So let me give you overview of last session concepts what we discussed. I hope everyone gone through all the topic we discussed in the last session. So what we learned in our previous session, we discussed about what is a function and how to configure function. So the function declaration, function expressions. So the function architecture, function parameters, why why we need parameters, and we discussed about so how the parameters can use default values. Higher order functions, default parameters are important. So up to this part, I hope everyone is clear, right? Yeah. So today we will continue with this. So last session we discussed about parameters when we are working with parameters. Do you remember? Tell me how many number of parameters we can use. What is the maximum limit of parameters? Good. The maximum limit of parameters, it can vary from 1024 to 65,535. It is in 16-bit memory. Am I right? So parameters can be, there is no fixed limit actually, but the maximum you can do on a 16-bit is 65,535. Okay, now what is another important you need to learn while working with functions parameters in interviews? One major concept asked is about. So actually using too many parameters, too many parameters in a function is not good. Why using too many parameters in a function is not good? Because it leads to various injection attacks. It will lead to various injection attacks. It will lead to various injection attacks. Generally, when you are learning programming languages, database programming or anywhere, you will learn about injection attacks. Injection attacks allows any client to write a query from the user interface and submit the query into the application. So querying into application is possible only with parameters. And that is the reason if so many parameters are there, then hackers can try to hack your application by passing values and by sending data into your application through the parameters. So you need parameters, but as much as possible, don't use too many parameters. We need to avoid using too many parameters. That is the reason ES6, so actually ES5 and a higher version introduced REST parameters. It have introduced REST parameters. Into JavaScript, we have the concept of REST parameters. Actually, what is a REST parameter and what are the concepts about REST parameters? So, a function having too many parameters is not good. It leads to several injection security problems. So, ES5 and higher version introduced this REST parameters. So Now in interviews, the questions like, so what is a REST parameter? They ask question like, what is a REST parameter? What is answer is REST parameter. Actually, too many things you need to understand here. REST parameter is a single parameter that allows multiple arguments. That means you can pass several arguments using one REST parameter. That means parameter will be only one, but it can handle many arguments. So we call this parameter as REST parameter. Actually, it is defined. It is defined by using dot 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 and parameter name. So any number of parameters are collected and stored under the reference of this dot dot and parameter name. So REST parameter is nothing but one parameter which can handle several values, several arguments. Let me show you the concept here. For example, we are going into this now. Yeah. Now here, suppose I'm creating a function. I'm creating a function called details, and it is expecting ID, name, price, stock, so many details. Now, so many parameters are not good. Too many parameters are not good for application. So what we will do is we will just restrict this to one REST parameter dot 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 and param. That means one parameter. For example, I will give the name as just args. That is one simple parameter. You can give any name for the parameter. I am just giving args. So technically, this is a single this is a single REST parameter, and this single REST parameter can handle multiple arguments. That means whenever you call the details into that, you can pass multiple arguments. Like suppose I am passing an ID, I passed some name, I passed some price, I am having some boolean true false. You can pass any number of arguments. All these arguments are stored in under the reference of one REST parameter. And very important here is this REST parameter is array type. It is an array type parameter. REST parameter is array type parameter. That means you know how to handle an array. You know how the arrays are handled. Actually, this args is a REST parameter. When that args is a REST parameter, what happens now into that args? So you can see this is an array type. When you are saying that is an array type, usually what happens into this array? We are going to pass these values. That means this will allocate memory for array, and this will be at index 0. This will be at index 1. This will be at index 2. That means they are stored in this args. And actually this args arguments is an array type now. And these values are stored under that reference. Now what we can do, we can access and we can use it. So you know how to deal with an array. You learned various techniques of managing arrays in your JavaScript. You can use them. So how we can access all these details? Just simply, if you want to access all these details. So I hope you people learned array destructuring in JavaScript. When you have learned array destructuring in JavaScript, what you can do is you can declare ID, name, price, and stock like this. and into that you can pass an array type parameter. Now usually what happens in this? So the first value will be stored in ID, second will be stored in name, third will be stored in price, and four will be stored in stock. And because it is an array type, so the index 0 will be stored in this ID location and index 1 will be stored in name. This is actually array destructuring. That means one REST parameter can accept multiple arguments. Now what is advantage here is you can reduce the number of parameters in the declaration. So here we are reducing the number of options. And already we learned in our previous class why we need parameters, what is the purpose of parameters, all this finished already. If anybody missed that, you please check the previous class. So in the previous class, we already learned and why we are using this. If you joined this late, please join at right time so that you can understand. In between, after 10-15 minutes, when you join, you can't understand the concept, right? Yeah. So what is this three dots? Why we are using everything I explained. So a REST parameter is configured using three dots, and one REST parameter can accept multiple arguments, right? And now we need to print this document dot write. I'm just printing the details like ID. What is the ID? And in next line, let's say name. So what is the name? Price and the price, and we have stock in the next line stock, and it is going to get the stock. So we are avoiding several parameters. We are using one parameter to handle several arguments. So now how many arguments we are passing into the function? How many arguments we are passing into the function? In this case, four arguments we are passing. Good. But all the four arguments are collected by one formal parameter. And what is that one formal parameter? Args. That is what REST parameter is. And you can see that. So this REST parameter can access and we can use the values of REST and it is going to display. So this is one simple thing you need to understand. I hope you understood the point. So what is the purpose of REST parameter? One parameter can handle multiple arguments. Is it clear to everyone? Right? Having so many parameters is not good for application. So one parameter can handle several arguments. Here some rules are there. So what are the basic rules? The basic rule is every function can have only one REST parameter. Every function can have only one REST parameter. Another point is here REST parameter can be configured along with any another parameter. You can configure with any another parameter also. It doesn't mean that you are using REST parameters means you can't use another parameter. You can use another parameter also, but what is the rule is REST parameter must be the last parameter in formal list. It must be the last parameter in formal list. These are all the basic rules you need to follow. So whenever you are configuring a parameter as REST parameter, make sure that function is having only one REST parameter. And that REST parameter can be used along with other parameters. For example, I am trying to use this REST parameter along with other parameter like what? Suppose args is the parameter and I am adding one more parameter with a comma title as another parameter. Now what is problem here? You can see it is showing some issue, and see the issue what it says. It says that a rest parameter must be last in parameter list. So whenever you are defining parameters, make sure that rest parameter is last. So actually I can add this title. I can add this title to the beginning. So we can put like this. This is fine. You can have rest parameter along with other parameter, but make sure that the rest parameter is last. And here I am printing the title. So just a heading like I will print the title here and heading close. Now what it is expecting, the first argument is title. This is actually product details and the other argument. So in this case, what is happening here is the first argument is passed into this and all these arguments are passed into this rest. All other arguments are passed into rest. And usually that arguments is an array type. In the 0, it is going to have that 1 into the arguments 1. So it is going to have that TV. That means it is an array type. So what we are doing is we are destructuring and we are accessing the details by using a array destructure technique, and we are using it. So now you can see that rest parameter can be defined with other parameters, but it must be last. And you can see now it is going to handle it and it shows. And of course, for example, this is the title. We need to print the title. So after that, the other details we need to handle. So here what it is doing, the product title need to be printed into this location. And you see it is taking how many values are required. Observe here. So ID it is taking as first, but it should take not ID. It should take the product details. It should take the product details and display here. You can see that it is getting the product details and showing the details. So we can have rest parameter along with other parameters. So, but rest parameter must be the last parameter in formal list. These are all the basic rules about rest parameter. So in interviews, what is the question? So the question is, can we have multiple parameters? Of course, we can have multiple parameters. But what is the problem having multiple parameters? So the multiple parameters leads to injection attacks. So then what is the solution here? The solution is better you use one rest parameter to handle multiple arguments. And these are all the basic points about rest. Like you can have only one and it must be the last. If anyone asks question like why it should be the last, because it uses an iterator mechanism through which it can read up to end. That is the reason there cannot be anything after the end. So make sure that rest parameter is last. This is while working with parameters, you need to understand about how to manage multiple arguments, right? So technically, what is the purpose of rest parameter? I hope everyone understood, right? Now, next important, we are having another concept is, so a function can use spread, can use spread operator. A function can use spread operator to spread single argument into multiple parameters. A function can use spread operator to spread single argument into multiple parameters. So that means actually uh, you can spread. you can spread only an array type. You can spread an array type. You can spread an array type. So whenever you are spreading, I hope you people learned about spread generally in operators. In JavaScript, you have a spread operator, and you might have learned that while learning about arrays, how to spread the values of arrays into individual references. That's a general thing. So if you are already aware of JavaScript arrays, you know how the spread approach works. The same is allowed in a function also. I will show you what is the point. So let me keep this example here. This is REST related. I will copy the REST related. I am copying here. Okay. Next important is the spread. What is the spread concept is? Suppose I am having here, let's remove this. I'm having a function details. In this ID, name, price, stock, some parameters are present and we are presenting the details. So ID and name, price, stock, these all details we are presenting. So we are accessing name, so price, and all these details are printed. But whenever we are passing them stock, okay, right. Now, whenever we want to pass some values into this, so what we have done is we created some data, which is an array. In that ID, name, so name, price, and the stock like details are stored. That means a collection of values are kept in a data reference. Now, into the details function, I am sending the data. Now, into the details function, when you are sending the data, what will happen here is usually when you send data into the details, this data is actually array, and this array will be stored into the reference of the first parameter. So this data will be stored in the ID reference. That means what will happen? The details of data, which is an array like one TV and all these details are stored in one ID. But what is our requirement is we need to spread them. So we need to spread these values into individual references. We want to spread these values into individual references. Then how you can spread them into individuals? So how one argument can spread into multiple? How it can spread into multiple? This is possible just by using the spread operator dot 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 and the argument. Now remember, this argument must be array type, only array type. It will not allow you to spread any another type, only array. That means it needs a collection of values. So now what happens is this can spread into individual references. That means now what is going to happen here is first let's check. If I don't use spread operator, the entire data will be copied into ID. That means ID will hold this array and the name, price, stock will be undefined. Let's check that. You can see that ID is holding that array and others are undefined. But what we want to do is we want to spread these values. So what we will do, we will just use a spread operator dot dot dot. And this spread operator can spread the data into individual references. That means it is going to copy that into individual references now. This is the concept of spread. That means a function will allow REST parameters and a function will allow spread. If anyone asks like what is difference between REST and spread, what do you say? You have any definition? What is difference between REST and spread? What do you say? What is difference between rest and spread? How you will define that difference between rest and spread? Any idea? Yeah. So, yeah, good, good. Actually, yeah, very good, very good. I can see your answers, right? Very good. Actually, what is the best way to define? What is the best way to define how we can configure them is the best way to define is how you can answer this. So I can see your answers good. So I will give here an example for this. This is spread. This is spread. So now if anyone asks the question like what is difference between rest and spread. So generally what is the answer for this is what is difference between rest and spread is actually the rest is rest refers to single formal parameter single formal parameter that can handle multiple arguments that can handle multiple arguments. Rest refers to one formal parameter that can handle multiple arguments. And actually spread refers to an operator. So spread refers to an operator that a collection, spreads a collection into multiple multiple references that spreads a collection into multiple references. So actually this will be, you can say multiple parameters. Rest is about formal and spread is about actual. So one more point you can say here is rest is about formal and the spread is about, we have spread is about actual. You learnt about actual parameter and formal parameter. That means one rest parameter can handle multiple arguments. Spread is one argument that spreads into multiple parameters. So rest is about formal and spread is about actual. That means rest is defined in formal parameter, spread is defined in actual parameter. That is actually the correct way to explain the difference between rest and spread. Yeah, good. I hope everyone is clear. Understood? Yeah, good. So this is usually the concept of parameters. That means whenever you are working with parameters, these all points are important about parameters. I given a detailed point about parameters. Why you need parameters and what parameters can do, what are formal, actual, what are arguments, what type of parameter you can have. So here you need to understand about what is the default parameters, higher order functions, rest parameters, and spread. These are all about the parameters you need to understand in JavaScript, right? Next, after understanding about function parameters. We will see another concept now. We need to understand the concept of about function with return. We need to know function with return. So here you need to understand a function with return. Why a function needs a return and what is the purpose of a function with return? Actually, for this you need to know few points clearly. Generally, people, when you are using for different expressions and all, you write functions with return. So the question here is why a function needs a return. Actually, every function, every function in JavaScript, every function in JavaScript, every function in JavaScript is by default void type. Every function in JavaScript is by default void type. That is the first basic thing. Whenever you write a function, every function is by default void type. Now we need to understand what is the meaning of this void type. So that means void type means what? What does void refers to? What is the concept of void? Let me show you one example here. Point. See, suppose I return a function called addition. This function having two parameters a and b. Now I am having another function result. This result function have to print the result of the addition. Addition must be performed in one function and the result must be displayed in another function. That means we need to carry data from one function to another. We need to carry data from one function to another. Two are there. Now, generally, what is the approach you need to understand here is addition is a function. When we call addition function, so you can see here, this is the start of the function scope and this is the end of function scope. Now what happens is a memory is allocated. That means a memory is allocated for this function. A memory is allocated for that function. In that memory, it is going to handle, that means the memory is addition. And in this memory, it is going to handle A and B. Now what happens is usually when it reaches the end of the function, whatever memory that is allocated, this memory, whatever allocated, what happens is this memory is destroyed after the function ends. The memory is destroyed. That means a function will allocate memory, it will perform the functionality, and it will destroy the memory after the completion of the function. That means whatever happened inside the function is deleted after the function is completed. Now, if you want to try to access the data of this memory somewhere in another function, it's not accessible. Why it is not accessible? Because that memory is no longer available. The memory is destroyed. So addition is a function which is listening to you, which is doing the actions according to you, and after that it is simply not responding when it is completed. That means once it is completed, its all traces are cleaned up, its all traces are deleted. Whatever happened inside is not known to anybody else. This state is called as void state. We call this as a void state. Void state means it is going to perform what you asked. It is going to perform what you asked. After that, what it is going to do is it is going to delete everything it has performed. Once it reaches the end, it is going to remove everything. Due to that, what happens is the memory allocated is not accessible to others. That means, for example, what we have done in this function, let's see, in this function what we are doing, we are declaring some variable like var c is equal to a plus b. And here I want to access document dot write. I want to access c is equal to. I want to access the value of c here, but this is not accessible. Actually, what the people think about this concept is they think that addition function is restricting c from being accessed in result. That means addition is restricting C. Generally, what usually people say about C is they say that it is function scope. That means addition is restricting C so that it is not accessible outside. Am I right? Do you think the same pointer? What do you say? That means addition is restricting C. That is the reason it is not accessible. But actually, it is not. So, see, for example, if I try to print the result, if I try to print the result, so you see, I try to print the result and let's open the console also here. And you see, I try to print the result. If C is not allowed to access in result, usually what people say, like, yeah, you are saying that C is a local variable of addition function and C is not accessible to result. That means, what do you say? Addition is restricting C na? Tell me, is addition is restricting C? Is it restricting C? So it is actually not restricting C. What is happening? If it is restricting, then when I try to access C, then it should show me a message that it is not accessible. It should show me a message that it is not accessible. If it is restriction, then it should say that it is not accessible. You are not allowed to access. Am I right? If it is restriction, then it should say that it is not accessible. Am I right? Yeah. But see, what is the error message it is showing to me? It is saying that C is not defined. It is saying that C is not defined at result. It is not defined. What does it means that it is not defined? It is not defined means it is saying that there is no C at all. There is no C at all. Why there is no C? Already C is there. Then why it is not accessible to result? Because the memory allocated for this addition is deleted. Once the memory is deleted, this C is deleted and you try to access the C, it is not accessible. It is not accessible because there is no C at all. That means it is not restriction. It is that not found. C is not restricted. C is not found. Is it clear to everyone? Understood? C is not restricted. C is not found. That is the reason it is saying that not defined. Not defined. Yeah. Now see the interesting part here. What we will do is, that is, this nature is called void. Actually, this nature is called void. You see, addition is now void type. You can observe that. Void is a nature where the traces are deleted. It will not give anything after the functionality have performed. Now see the interesting what we do is here we will just use a return statement. We will use a return statement. Generally, when you ask anybody what is the purpose of return, usually people will tell you that return will return a value. Am I right? Generally, people idea is like return is returning a value. No? Yeah, but you know that return is, but you know that return is a jump statement. Na? What do you say? You know this, na? Return is a jump statement. Am I right? Yeah. Now imagine how a jump statement can return a value. How a jump statement can return a value. So jump statement cannot return a value. Jump statement cannot return a value. Return is a jump statement. Then usually what happens here is, now observe the concept. What is going to happen? So a memory scope is allocated here. That means the memory is allocated for the function here. The memory is allocated. After memory is allocated, now in the memory, it is accepting the values A and B. And what it is doing is, it is performing A plus B. After performing A plus B, actually, what is happening now after performing A plus B is, it is doing this A plus B, and after that, a return statement is executed. A return statement is executed. And you know that the return statement will not allow to execute any statement after it, because return statement ends that it terminates the block, and any statement after return is not reachable to compiler. Everybody knows this, na? Anything after the return keyword is not reachable to compiler. I hope everyone learned about this. You know this, right? Yeah. Now what is happening here is, now when you use return as a jump statement, it will terminate the function block here. When it terminates here, that means it is not reaching the end. It is not reaching the end, but it terminated. Means what happens here? The memory allocated for that function is still alive even when you finish that block. That means the memory is still there. When the memory is destroyed, when you reach here, the memory is destroyed. But before reaching there, you are using a return. That means memory is still available. Now what will happen is, the result of this A plus B will be stored in this addition, so that now this addition you can access anywhere and access and use it here. You can use it here. That means the memory allocated for the function is not deleted. The memory allocated for the function is still available. And in that memory, the values will be stored so that you can access and use it anywhere. You can access and use. So what is a return doing here? A return is going to keep the memory alive. It keeps the memory alive. Even after the action is completed, the memory is alive. So the data is stored in that memory. So now what we can do is, we can access from any location and use it. That means here I can just say addition is equal to, I can access that addition function, and into that I can pass the value 50, 20, something like this. Now, usually what happens in this case is, this data is passed into it. It will perform the action A plus B, and whatever result comes, that result it will store in the reference of this addition. That means addition is going to work as a variable also. That means addition is going to work as a variable. The result of A plus B will stored in this addition. Now you can access that and you can use anywhere. You can access and use it anywhere. That means the memory allocated for the function is not deleted because return is not allowing to reach to the end. Then memory is still available. Then you can just access and use the memory. And you can see that in this case, you can see that it is going to display the result like this. That means it will get that and it will show. That means what is the purpose of a return statement in a function? The purpose of return statement in a function is not actually to return value, because return is a jump statement in programming. What it is going to do, it is going to terminate the function before the function memory is destroyed. That means the function memory is still alive. The result of the function can be stored in that function memory. You can store that in the function memory so that we can access and use from any another location. People will ask like, I can use a global variable. I can store the result of a plus b in a global variable. Global variable will allocate another memory again. That means what you are doing, you are allocating multiple memories. Now, what is the advantage of this is you don't need to allocate multiple memory. The memory allocated for function can be used to handle the values of the function and also the result of the function. Actually, it is not possible to handle the result because once the function ends, the memory ends. What return is going to do? Return is going to keep the memory alive. That means what is void type means a function destroys its memory. So when it ends the scope, that means it will destroy the memory when it ends the scope. So hence return, it cannot return any result. You can say any value, any result. So a return statement, a return statement, uh, a return statement in function, what it will do, it jumps, a return statement will function jumps before the function, ends its scope. What is advantage of this? It keeps the function memory alive, so that you can handle data. You can handle data using function memory. We can handle the data using function memory and access from any location. From any location. This is the advantage of a function. So that means syntactically, a function with some name, and it can have some parameters, and it can return some value. Actually, it is not returning a value. It is keeping the memory alive and returning that memory so that we can store anything and we can use. So into the name, so this is the arguments, and whatever the value you enter, it is stored under that memory. This is the purpose, so that you can, yeah. So this is the purpose of a function with a return, so that you don't need any additional memory. You can use the function memory to store the function result, and you can access and use from any location. I hope everyone understood this point. So anywhere understood? Right. You can return multiple. Now we will see more about return, right? Usually first point is technically first point is technically, to understand what is the job of a return. And now the question, if once you understood what is the job of a return, I hope everyone understood what is the job of a return, huh? Right? You understood what is the job of a return. Now the point is what type of value it can return. That means a function can return any type of value. A function can return any type of value. It can be primitive, it can be non-primitive, non-primitive, or it can be even a function. It can be even a function. A function can return any type of value. It can be primitive, non-primitive, because see, function is leaving a memory. If a function is leaving the memory, that means in the memory you can store anything. Usually people ask like, what I can store in a function memory? It's a memory, you can store anything. You can store primitive types, non-primitive types, a function. That means in this case, what addition is doing, addition is returning some number. It can return a string, it can return array, it can return object, it can return array of objects, it can return a date, it can return regular expressions. So it can return anything. A function can return anything. A function can return anything. So, and a function can return a function also. And this is interesting, but actually it can return anything. For example, we have function. Get data is a function. Now I am using return and I am using this. Now tell me what function is returning. You know that function is returning what in this case? Function is returning array. Good. Function is returning array. If I define like this, what function is returning now? So what function is returning now in this case? Good. It is returning an object. It is returning an object. If I defined like this, that means what function is returning? Obviously, you know, it is returning an array of objects. Good. Yeah. So it's an objects array, right? So that means I'm having name. So I'm having another object like suppose mobile, and you know how to handle it. So get data is having a memory. This function is having a memory, and in that memory there is an array. Then we will use a map. We will read every item and we will print that document, right? And I am printing that item. So let's see now what it is going to do. And every item is an object. So this object is having a name. Now what we are doing, we are printing the values of every. So you can have any kind of data. That means a function can return anything. A function can return anything. So primitive type, a non-primitive type. This is a non-primitive type. Even a function can return function. This is interesting point. You see now here we have a function called demo. This demo function is returning another function, and this function can return another function. You can return anything. That means a function can return multiple functions. If a function means a function can return another function. If you designed a function to return any function, that means here, if a function, if a function is designed to return a function, then it is known as function currying. We call it as currying. We call this mechanism as function currying. If a function is returning another function, then we call it as function currying. We call it as function curry. A function is designed to return a function, then it is function curry. So in JavaScript interviews, this is also one important term, like what is function currying, what are higher order functions. Function currying is a mechanism where a function can return another function. Now see here, this function is returning some welcome to JavaScript. This is what it is returning. Now how do we access this? Actually, what is the final return of demo? Tell me what is the final return of demo? What is the final return of demo function? Actually, final return is, it is a string type na? Good, right? It is a string type, right? So now how do we access this? Let's see, document, right? I want to print the string. So demo is a function. In that function memory, there is another function, and that function is having another function which is returning string. This function, the third function, is returning string. Then you can see that that means this welcome actually, yeah, you can see that this welcome to JavaScript is in this memory, and this will be stored in this memory. That means it is stored in this memory. Am I right? It is stored in that memory, and this will be stored in this memory. That means finally demo contains all the data. That means we are accessing it and we are using it. That means we are accessing and handling it. We are accessing and using it. Now you can see when I save this, so a function can return another function, and you can see it shows that. That means you can configure a function with another function. So with return another function, you can define this. This mechanism is called as function currying. We call this as function currying. That means a function can return another function. Usually, syntactically, how you define here is a function. So a name and what it is going to return another function. So you can define a function in such a way that it returns a function. So there can be any levels. This process of a function returning function is called as function currying. We call this mechanism as function currying. And one more important point is that when you are learning about function currying, so means a function returns another function, and we just learned that a function can return multiple, means it can return primitive, it can return non-primitive, it can return a function. Now the question asked is here, can a function return more than one value? Can a function return more than one value? Higher order function already we discussed in the last session. Higher order function means what? A function takes another function as parameter. A function takes another function as parameter. Huh? A function takes another function as parameter and returns a function, then we call it as what? Higher order function. If just it is returning functions, then we can use it. Yeah. Now tell me one simple point here. Can a function have multiple Yeah, sorry, lost connection. Yeah, let's continue, right? Just we lost connection, got back right here, fine. Is it audible to everyone now? Is it clear? Right. Okay, good. Okay. Now let's see the point here. So here we will see the concept. Can we, as I told you here, can we have multiple return? Can a function have more than one return? Right? Usually a function cannot execute any statement, cannot execute any statement which is defined after return. But can we have multiple return? Yes, we can have multiple return, but that is conditionally executed. Conditionally executed. That means already you know conditionally means, for example, what it is going to do is suppose we are taking a password. And what is the question here is we are having a condition. So what is that condition? So condition is nothing but, so if password is matching with some value, if password is matching with some value, what it can do is it can return some success message. If not, it can return something else. That means it is going to return something else saying that invalid password like this. That means you can configure the function which can return two different things. So that means you can have, but remember, it will not return all at a time. So you can configure with multiple return, but which one it will return, that depends on the condition. That depends on the condition. So in this case, we call the demo and we will enter a prompt, enter password. We are asking for this. And what it has to do, it actually returns a string. We will print that string. That means we will use a document right here and we will try to print the details. We are trying to print the details because it returns a string. Now what this is going to do, ask enter password. You entered wrong, then it says invalid. You entered correct, then it will display that login success. That means you can define a function with multiple return. You can define a function with multiple return, but all are not going to work at a time. It depends. This is called as conditional. We generally call this conditional rendering, conditional execution of statements. This is possible. You can define with multiple. However, will it return multiple values? Of course, if it is an array of objects, it is going to return multiple values. Depending on situation, it can perform different types of functionalities also. You can configure a function with multiple return. So I hope everyone understood this part. Is it clear to everyone? Understood? Everyone understood? Right. Good. Now, another important while working with return. So in many interviews, one more question is asked about this return and working with return is, so another important question in interviews asked is what is function chaining? What is function chaining? What is the concept of function chaining? How this function chaining is going to work? Actually, function chaining is a mechanism like currying. Function chaining, this function chaining concept you might have seen in so many places. For example, suppose you see we are having a values string. Welcome is a string. Now what I want to do is I want to print this string. So technically you can use anything. Technically you can define, you can use a switch case also. It's not like you have to use a if condition. to write multiple cases, you can use else if, you can use switch case, right? You generally know that conditions how to write in JavaScript. Now you see here, we have a string. Now, how do we convert this string to uppercase letters? You learned basic string functions. How we convert this into uppercase letters? Tell me how you can convert this string into uppercase. Yeah, good. So we have two uppercase we are using. How to make it bold? How to make it bold? To make it bold, we have a method called bold. We can use bold. How to make it italic? You can use italics. You can use. This is actually function chaining. To a function, you can invoke another function. So that functionalities you can configure on a single object. Now tell me in this case, which function is first and second? Is there any order dependency? Is there any order dependency? Is there any order dependency? No, there is no order dependency. You can use in any order. You can use in any order. You can define first bold, then two uppercase, then italics. Now the question in interviews is how you design a function in such a way that it can change the functionalities. And there can be in any order. In any order, you can define the function. For this, we need to implement one technique. We need to implement one trick. Using that, we can create such chaining of functions. Let's see how we can create chaining of functions, how we can define chaining of functions. So function chaining is there everywhere. Suppose, I hope you people know when you are dealing with array. So array, suppose we have var values is equal to an array. Now into that values, we are using a filter method. Filter method is going to filter the data and return array. On that filter, we can perform the functionalities like what? Find. On that find, you can perform another functionality. That means filter, you can access find, or filter. After filtering, you can use the options like slice. After slicing, you can add a functionality like find. You can add slicing. This mechanism is called as the combination of chaining. This is called as chaining. So technically, this is chaining mechanism. So chaining is the mechanism of configuring functions in this way. Now the question is, how do we create function chaining? How do we define the function chaining? Let's see how to create a function chaining. That means how do we chain the function and define them? Let's see one example. I'm creating a function demo. This function, I want it to configure functions in such a way that we can invoke in any order. Invoke in any order we want. Then see what we are doing. We are creating a return, and this return have to return an object, because an object can contain several keys. You can access any key. And this one should return a function, and it should return a b function, and it should return a c function. That means I am using three functions. I'm configuring three functions. That means return, it is returning an object. Object contains three functions, A, B, and C. Now, what is the specialty of the keys in an object? You know that the keys, object and array are non-primitive types. Non-primitive types means they don't use a stack mechanism. They are in a heap memory. When they are in a heap memory, is there any order of accessing the values? If they are in a heap memory, is there any order for accessing the values? No. Heap memory don't have any order of accessing the values, but stack will have an order. So object is a heap memory. You can access in any order. and see what A is doing. A is doing console.log. I will print A. After that, this is interesting point. Now, this A memory must be used by the current object. The A memory must be used by current object, that is demo. Then what we have to do is this memory must be alive after the function completed, and that memory should be accessible through the current function. It should be accessible through the current function. That means I am accessing B, the memory of A must be available to B. B memory must be available to A. How the memory of every function can be available is you can just make a return as this. That means now what B is going to do, console.log, it is going to print B and it will return this. What C is going to do, console.log, and it will do, and it will return C. That may return this. That means what is happening here is a function, after performing the functionality, it will return this memory to this demo. This refers to the current context. That means it refers to the current memory. That means demo can access A memory. It can access A memory. Demo can access the B memory. It can access the C memory, and there is no order for that. It can access in any order. And you see the technique now. I'm accessing demo. So I'm accessing demo function. And in the demo function, I'm invoking A. And you can see that. Let's run this and see. You can run this and see. You can see that now it is going to print A in the console. I am printing it, and you can see it is printing A. In the console, it is printing A. Okay, I'm accessing through A, I'm accessing C, and you can see that it is going to access A and C. And in the next level, I am accessing directly only C, and you can see that it is going to access only C again. And through C, I am invoking B, then you can see that it is going to access the C and B. C and B it is going to access. I am accessing only B, that means demo, I am accessing only B, then you can see that it is going to access only B and only show that. That means you can access in any order. I'm accessing all of them. That means you can access in any order. B, C, in that A, in that B. That means you can access in any order, and you can see that it is going to access C, A, B. It is going to access in any order. This mechanism is called function chaining. Function chaining. That means you can configure the function in such a way that it allows you to access a series of functions in any order. You can invoke a function with another function in any order. String handling, array handling, mathematical operations. You might have learned math functions like math.round, math.ceil. You can define multiple functions to another. You can add by using this chaining mechanism to handle multiple functionalities. This mechanism is called function chaining. Whenever you are working with function with a return, this chaining and currying are important concepts. What is function chaining? So chaining is the process of invoking a function. So with reference of another function, invoking a function with reference of another function. So there is no order dependency. There is no order dependency. Order dependency. Actually, this is possible through classes. We can configure and use it, but this is easy to handle using a function. That means how you can configure, you can define a function. This function have to return an object, and this object should use a functionality. F1 is one function, and it should return this. It can use another function F2, and it can return this. It have to return. So you can configure chaining. So demo allows you to access F2 first and later F1. It will allow you to access F1 and F2. It will allow to access only specific anything you want. This mechanism is called function chaining. I will copy this example for you. This is an example of function chaining. So function return and function chaining. I hope everyone is clear about this. Understood the point? Why a function needs a return? How it can return different types of values? What is function currying and what is function chaining? Is it clear to everyone? Right. Good. Good. Now we have some more points about functions. So asynchronous functions, function callbacks, function promises, function generators. These are important topics to understand about functions in JavaScript. I hope up to now everybody is clear with the concepts. Uh, is it clear? Up to now everybody is clear about the functions, right? Yeah. Okay. Now we have few more things about functions. Function callbacks, function promises, asynchronous functions, function generators. These are very frequently asked in interviews. We should know that we will see in our next session. Tomorrow we will do that. So tomorrow we will have the last session, and in tomorrow's session we will finish all the function concept. Then you will get a complete idea on functions in this. And mostly today we will post this videos, yes, previous and today's videos into the YouTube. You can get it from our NareshIT YouTube channel. Okay, right, good. So you can get it from there, right? We will post into the YouTube channel. You can get it from there. Okay. So I hope you are clear with this, and tomorrow we will share in the YouTube channel itself. We will post a notes link also. You can get it from there. This notes link also we will put it there. Okay. A WhatsApp community link. Already you people have the WhatsApp community link. So you can get that WhatsApp community link, right? The WhatsApp community link. So this is the WhatsApp community link. You can join into this. WhatsApp community link is this. You can join into this. Okay, right. Then in tomorrow's session, we will finish the functions concept. Thank you very much for your participation. And tomorrow after the session completed, if you have any doubts, I will take the doubts. Okay, thank you very much.